I don't care if you're working or not. If the outcome happens within the timeline that we decided, good for you. The only thing I care about is that the end result is delivered.
I've never heard anyone say that.
Asaf Darash is the founder and CEO of Regpack and an experienced entrepreneur and investor. He specializes in web-based product development and building teams that turn ideas into profitable companies.
Things are urgent because managers have a huge ego. In that situation, I give someone a call.
Your PhD focused on how computer languages affect human action. How does that academic lens change the way you think about software and the teams that build it?
So first of all, like I said, the first thing is
Welcome to the dark arts of software engineering team optimization. I'm Franz Aliquo with my co-host Kyle Johnson. Today's guest is Asaf Darash, multi-time founder and current CEO of Regpack. Asaf turned his Ph.D. research into a scalable SaaS product and has spent years building teams and systems that solve complex product and automation challenges. He's passionate about product-led growth, engineering flexibility, and building software that lets organizations focus on impact, not paperwork. He's also really good at building companies that actually make money. Asaf, welcome.
thank you for having me.
Cool, man. So I just want to kind of jump right in with a kind of, relevant question, less to team optimization, but more about the structure of teams. When we first spoke, you told us you were distributed before COVID made it mandatory. So I just kind of like to ask you about what did a lot of companies tend to get wrong about remote work when they were forced to adopt it back then? And what do you think they're still getting wrong today?
So I'll divide it into two. I'll divide it into like technical and then like substantial. Okay. So working remotely is not only a change in position or in location. Okay. Working remotely means that you need to change the way that you communicate and what you expect from your employees. Think of it like this, like you need to move from expecting people to be present, that you want specific outcomes from people. You need to move from monitoring people to giving them resources and expecting results. Now, a lot of times, this is a very hard change for a lot of managers and a lot of people that are used to working from an office. Because from their perspective, if I see you next to your desk, I see you working, you send me a report or you come with questions to me, then from my perspective, you're working. Okay. But that is not necessarily the case. You have a lot of times situations where someone is working, but they're not actually working. They're not generating any outcome. They're just creating more work for other team members. Okay. Now, shifting to thinking about outcomes and only thinking about outcomes. This is like the tricky part. Only thinking about outcomes. That's the real tricky part because a lot of times you'll have situations where, and I remember that one of these conversations where I came to one of my managers and I told him, hey, your department is not functioning. And he was like, give me 2 days to look into this and I'll get back to you. And he gets back to me with a list of all the actions that they did. And we did this and we did that. And we brought this in. And I was like, I don't care. Your goal, your goal was this to create revenue, this type of revenue, or to create this number of clients. Did you do that? No, but we did this and it's like, I don't care that you did that. You need to reach the goal. And that is the major difference between working
Mhm.
remote and working from an office. Because when you're working from an office, that flies. Okay, I saw your effort, I saw that you tried. That flies. When you're working
Right.
remote, it doesn't fly anymore. Because now, from my perspective, I don't care if you work 1 hour or 10 hours. I don't work if you work from home or you work from the beach. I don't care if you work from the US or you work from Mexico or you work from Thailand. I really, really don't care. I don't care. The only thing I care about is that the end result that we agreed on within the timeline that we agreed on is delivered. And if it's not delivered, you come and you explain what is the problem. So that is the major difference between working remotely and working from an office. Whereas one is more about presence and the other is more about outcome.
I mean, I think as you're doing that, it feels like there's also kind of as you're hiring, thinking about remotely, there's an element of trust that you have to
Huge
kind of.
element of trust. You can't like I saw the other day. There's a new company, I forgot their name, where they say like, okay, you have remote teams. How do you know that if they're working? Right. And then they have all kinds of technological tools that allow you to understand if someone is working and is online and blah, blah. And I was like, and I looked at it and I laughed because who cares? I don't care if you're working or not. If the outcome happens within the timeline that we decided, and it took you 1 hour instead of 10, or I gave you 3 days and you did it in an hour, and the other 3 days you were on the beach, fine. Good for you.
Right, like, you did a great job.
You did a
Like,
great
that's
job.
you doing a great
You did a
job.
great job, and you should enjoy the beach.
Yeah.
Like, seriously. And that's like a mindset that is very, very hard for a lot of companies to do the shift because it's like it's very similar to how some companies give a cap to how much a salesperson can make, right? Why would you do that? Why? I want to pay
Right,
my
because then you're
salespeople as much money as possible,
right, because
right?
otherwise your incentive is to get to your goal, but beyond that, you're like, "Why?"
Exactly. So that's like the major change. The other changes are technical in the sense that there can be very big problems that are connected to working remote, mainly with morale, with company culture, with the feeling of connection to the company. Okay, all these are very, very fragile when you work remotely. Okay, and the way to do it is mainly through first of all, when you have meetings. Okay, they're all everybody, even if me and you are in the same office, will still join the meeting online. Okay, so if it's like a hybrid, so we'll still join the meeting offline online, so nobody will feel sort of like left out. Like
Right.
the remote people won't feel that they're less connected. That's one.
Gotcha. Yes.
Two, two, you agree on work hours. You really need to agree on work hours. And I tell everybody that when they are on the screen, they have to be dressed in a way that it would they can meet a client. Okay, because I don't like in the beginning we had situations where we have a lot of mothers as part of the company. They would come in with their little baby on them. It's like, no, you can't. You're in a meeting now. You have to make sure that you have childcare and you come to the meeting. Okay. So these little things and like getting dressed to work and all that also helps people not get burnt out. Because people when people work remotely, if they're not used to it and they don't work in a responsible way, two things happen. Either they don't work or they burn out,
Right.
right? Because they just don't stop working. Right.
Yeah.
So I had situations where I would see that someone's sending me emails at an hour that doesn't make sense. And I would call them on chat and be like, stop. You have to stop working now. You
Yeah.
have to stop because you're burning yourself out. So I'd say that there are the technical parts and there are like really changes in concepts or the way that you think of your work. And when people ask me how is the best way to think of remote work, think of you as a manager as someone who is supplying resources to your employees to make them successful. That's how I think about it. Like a lot of times I come to people, I'll say, like, this is the goal. What do you need from me? Or what do you need from finance in order to make this happen? And then they need to come up with a solution. So what you said is it's correct. It's a lot of trust and a lot of I would say it's something that I always say at Regpack. It's like just be an adult. You need to be an adult.
Right. And I mean, I feel like kind of what you're saying, particularly in terms of kind of having people show up to the meetings dressed as they would for an office and, just kind of, and working hours that make sense. It's like, aside from, kind of selecting trustworthy people, I feel like it's instilling a mindset
Mhm.
that I think comes naturally in an office setting because of kind of the society structure around what that looks like. And what you're doing, it sounds like to me that you're also kind of porting that over to the digital world and kind of instilling a mindset that people are still in an office and working, and it's not just like you're at home wasting
Do
time.
whatever you want. Yeah.
Right.
It's like we know that if I reach out to someone at 2 p.m., they should answer me within 10 minutes, 30 minutes. If they don't answer me, I'm like, what's up? Like we're
Okay.
like, and if and it's now we also have a policy in Regpack where we don't limit your vacation days. You can take as many vacation days as you like. Okay. So I always tell people it's like if you wanted a vacation day, just take a vacation day. Like nobody's limiting you. Nobody's telling you you can only have 14 or 21. Take as many as you want. But if I know that you're working and I reach out to you, you should answer me. And if you don't, you need to explain why I can't get the answer that I need, or why a team member cannot work with you now, etc. Okay, so yes, we are sort of. I wouldn't say putting the fact that we're in an office because everything is a lot more flexible. We have people that tell me I work from 7 a.m. to 11, and then I'm learning physics until 4, and then from 4 till 7, I'm working again. And I'm like, fine, as long as it's agreed on and everybody knows what is your work hours, that's fine.
Right. How, kind of, I guess, moving one step beyond, like, before that is, you know, how do you select for trustworthy people during the hiring process? Because it feels like a lot of this hinges, particularly like in the remote world, I feel on, getting people that are going to say what they do and do what they say.
Yeah. So I think it's actually the other way around. I think everybody is trustworthy if you give them the opportunity to be trustworthy. It's not that people in it's my belief, okay? In general, people want to be good people. People want to work. They don't come to a job and spend 8 or 9 hours a day on a job that they don't wanna do. They wanna be successful, they want to reach the goals, they wanna feel, important, they wanna feel that they're significant. That's my initial assumption. And now you need to create the environment to allow it. Because if you're micromanaging someone, then yes, they're gonna find any possible way not to work. But if you come to someone and you say, "Hey, like, I trust you. And this is a project that I want you to lead. I want you to make it happen." Or even more than that, you tell them this is the goal. Tell me what projects you want to create in order to reach that goal. Okay? And then they come to you and you talk about it and you talk about finance and you talk about this and then you decide and you're like, "Yeah, go." And they go. And then from their perspective, they want to succeed. They don't want to reach a point or 2 months in or 3 months in where they're like, "No, we can't do this. Like, I totally failed." They don't want to have that situation. So it's not about finding trustworthy people, it's actually about finding talented people. And that's much easier to assess.
Interesting. I kind of related to that, I guess. Like, most of your team has been with Regpack, you said, for over a decade.
Mhm.
It's like in a world where like tenure at startups is often measured in months,
Yep.
right? What's your kind of dark art for retention in a distributed environment? Like, how do you keep long-term employees motivated and excited about their work when it's just become,
When it's their work, they're motivated and excited. When they have responsibility, when they have power, where they have the ability to decide, where they're not just, paper pushers, where they're not they like, for example, I never tell someone, "You're the problem." Okay? I tell someone, "Okay, this is a problem. How do we solve it, and how do we prevent it in the future?" And then when they like, I don't know, it's like, "Hey man, this is not my problem, it's your problem. This is your department, this is your work. You need to make sure that this problem doesn't happen again." And then that changes the whole dynamic from I'm your boss and I'm telling you what to do to this is yours and you need to make sure that it works. So I think that's the main thing because people have a lot of freedom in Regpack. I always say like, just get coming to work is not enough. You have to come with ideas and you have to come with you have to check things and find problems even though they're not in your face. It's not enough, just to do your job description. You're supposed to be a team member. You're supposed to be someone who contributes beyond what you do. And we have, for example, that every employee 1 day a week works on a project that they decided on.
oh, awesome, hell yeah.
Yeah, so it's 1 day a week they can eat, and then if the project is advancing really well, we can also move it to like, okay, so now you get a month or 2 months to work just on that. We'll take you out of the team or whatever. All these situations create connection to their day-to-day work. And it's part of something that I strongly believe in. I don't think like I work a lot of hours. I work like 12, sometimes 13 hours a day. And my kids sometimes ask me, it's like, Dad, how can you work so much? Like most people burn out. And I always tell them I haven't worked a day in my life. I
Yeah.
do the stuff I like. I solve puzzles and I solve problems and I come to it in a very positive manner. So the same applies to the employees that work for Regpack. Come with a positive manner, find how to improve things. For example, if I always tell them, like, if you manage to create a situation where you're taking your job away, right? You're automating it or you're creating a process that's great. And you'll never lose your job. We'll move you to something else.
That's really cool. I
Yeah.
like particularly the idea of allowing, and I think this is, happening more, but allowing kind of employees that are experts in their particular part of the company to be able to come up with their own ideas and concepts, thinking less about kind of like what you said, exactly what their job is, and more broadly about what the company needs and how their specific like vertical might be able to help the company reach its goals.
Perfect. Exactly. Like something that I would fire someone for is if he would tell me, like, this is not in my job description. I would fire him on the spot. On the spot. I would be like, you're fired. That's we're done. I'm not playing that game.
No, I get that 100%.
I love the way that, and do you actually, so a lot of your people have been with you for a long time, so they obviously understand this is how we work at Regpack. But when someone new's coming in, is there like, how do you bring them up to speed on, like, you have all this freedom, right? Which is helping to create an amazing environment, amazing company, people want to stay. So how do you kind of clarify for them, especially someone that maybe they just came from a more traditional managed office job, right? Where it's, and they haven't worked from home and they don't understand the boundaries of it. Like, because you have very open boundaries that also create, a very specific way of working that seems to work well for you and your company. So I'm just curious, like somebody new's coming in, how do we kind of breach that with them and make sure that they're on the same page?
First of all, they go through a 3-week training. There's a 3-week training for every employee that joins Regpack, where they go through, like, the different departments. They learn about how everything works. Then that's the first week. Then the other 2 weeks is working within their department to understand exactly what they need, how they need to work. And then part of that is like a full day of best practices from working afar.
Gotcha.
Right?
Yep.
So we really help them with that because it is for someone who's never worked remote, it's a bit of a shock and you need to but most people fall in love with it very quickly because it's really nice. It's like like most of our because we're like we meet a lot as a company, so a lot of times like people talk about their workout regimes and how they're exercising and so forth. And now a lot of them are saying I can do it in the morning, whereas in previously I could never do it. And so their time is really flexible and they really fall in love with that ability. So we guide them. Like for people that work directly with me, I also I monitor their work hours in the sense that they're not working too much. And for I'll give another example is like if I go into a meeting and someone lashes out or acts out in the meeting, right? What would most managers do? They would like take them to a one-on-one and tell them, you can't do this anymore. This is bad, right? You're a bad boy, right? I do the exact opposite. I tell them take 3 days off. You're burnt out. Like the way you acted made no sense, right? Just
Yep.
take 3 days off, clear your head, come back, and tell me what you think. And that normally works much better.
Yeah.
Huh.
And
Yeah,
I've never heard anyone say that.
they
Right.
come back refreshed, they're
Yeah.
good. They're like, let's go.
Yeah. You're like, something's up, right? You're
Yeah,
probably,
something's up.
burned
Like
out. Something's going on in personal life, whatever. Like, take the time, figure it out, come back to me with a clean. Yep. That's awesome. Yeah. With kind of back to the initial question, we do a lot of training here too with specific to engineering teams. And one of the things that we focus on when they're meeting with a new client, right? They're going to start integrating and they're going to become someone else's team. It's the communication practices, right? Everyone's remote. So let's talk about that. Let's actually spell it out. Like, how are we communicating with each other? What is it okay in response, right? If someone's working and you hit them up on Slack or whatever, instant messaging, and they don't respond to you for 2 hours, like, what the hell's going on here? So we try to clarify all that up front of like, hey, if you're doing an email, let's get back to it within an hour. If it's Slack, 10 minutes, like, and share the working hours, right? Like you said, some people are picking up their kids between, 2 and 3 every day. And so just share it, just be it so everybody knows. And then just makes everything
I
run so
also
much smoother.
wouldn't create like, fixed response times because
Yeah.
you want to remove the pressure. Okay.
Gotcha.
Like if
Yeah.
someone, especially for engineers, it's like so many times because I'm an engineer, I know how it works, right?
Yeah.
You're in the
Yeah.
zone, and if you complete this in the next hour, you're gonna save a week of work because you're so into it right now. You see everything, you see all the dots, everything's
Yeah.
working. Now, someone sends you a chat or an email, you're ignoring it because you're in the
Yeah.
zone. You're in the
Yeah.
zone. You want to complete it. So the thing is that it's very rare that something is urgent.
Yeah.
It is actually very, very rare.
Yeah.
Okay. It's like someone needs to be attacking us at a level that they pass so many firewalls and so many restrictions that okay, we're under attack. And then in that situation, I give someone a call. It happened in the last 16 years once. Okay. So it's like it's very, very rare that things are urgent. Things are urgent because managers have a huge ego.
Yeah.
Okay. So just chill and wait for the person to complete what they're doing and they'll get back to you. It's all good.
Yeah. Well, I've had so many cases too with like customers, right? Something comes in, it's like, I don't know, I'm out of the office. I see it the next morning, it's already solved itself, right? They're like, oh, we already actually ended up taking care of that thing that we thought was a thing that's not no longer a thing, right? So yeah. So yeah, a lot of stuff is not super urgent. Love it. Well, I guess so transitioning a little bit more to like specific to your engineers, right? And your engineering teams. When we talked last time, we were discussing how to making them understand your clients psychology and the way that they're going to work through and use your product, right? And how a lot of engineers, they're more focused on the technical aspects, right? So how do you get them to kind of think of it through the client's eyes and then bring that into their work?
Okay. So what I do with every module that we built, I start with the what it's going to be used for and what is the outcome for the client. I don't talk about the technical parts. I say, okay, let's say we're building a auto billing system. Okay, why is this important? Why is this? And this, by the way, this is due to my academic background, where a lot of times people ask, research questions, and the first question that you're asked is, why is this important? So this is exactly connected to it. Okay. So everything that we build or everything that we work on, every project that someone suggests, the first question is, why is this important? And now there can be a number of answers to this. And also from Regpack perspective, we tell them if this is not going to bring in more clients or this is not going to bring in more revenue, it's not important.
Yeah.
It's that simple. Okay. So the first thing that happens is that as we're building a module, we explain why it's important. And then after everything is done and the technical and the spec is built and all that, the person that presents it to the company is the engineer.
Gotcha.
It's not the project or
Ah,
product manager. It's not
yeah.
the head of the team. No, it's the actual engineer that is building it. He explains why it's important and how clients are going to be using it. They work with the marketing team to explain to the marketing team how to market this. So they have to understand how it's gonna work,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. They're like playing all the roles at that point, right?
And
They're
what this also gives them, it gives them a much better understanding of how to build this. Okay, because from a lot of times, an engineer like looks at the spec and they're just building the spec, right?
yeah.
This doesn't happen in Regpack because what happens is they have to understand that eventually how it needs to work for the client. And a lot of times I see these situations where they come to me and they're like, look, this is not part of the original spec that we said, but if we keep it like this, I think it'll be very hard for the usability standpoint, or it'll be very hard for them to reach the outcome that we want. And I think we need to do this and this and this. I was like, yeah, go for it.
Yeah. No, that makes perfect sense.
In the beginning, a lot of engineers are very against it, by the way, because they were like, I'm
A
just
lot
an
of
engineer.
pushback.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, I'm just an engineer. I just want to, but once they see that they're building things that people actually use later, and let's say it's not, you know how you have that, you release, and then everybody comes back to you. It's like, okay, this is shit, because it doesn't have this and this and this and this, and then you release again, and then a year in, you're like, okay, I just want to stop working on this module, right? And suddenly they see that that doesn't happen because they finish working on a module within 2 months and it's out. And normally there's only one round back, and then it's finished.
Yep.
And then suddenly they're like, okay, this works.
Yep.
This works. It's annoying. I don't want to, like, you know how engineers are. Like, I don't want to communicate with other people. I don't want to talk to
Right.
anybody. Blah, blah, blah,
Yeah.
right? But they're like, okay, this works because at the end, engineers are a little lazy, right? And not in a bad way. I think it's a good thing, right? Because they want to just have it done, right?
Yep.
So they see that it's more efficient, it works better, and they're like, okay, fine, let's do it this
Yeah,
way.
yeah. Yeah, and you also mentioned that a lot of times it's not really necessarily it's just that they don't have the context because it was never shared with them in the first place. So, I think just being intentional about that, right? And then, like you said, let them try it, let them go through a few cycles, and then they'll understand. They're like, "Oh, this is a better way of working. This," like you said, "it's gonna make my life easier."
I just kind of related to this, and just kind of something that's a little interesting for me personally is like you overhauled your QA process from scenario-based testing to what you called client stories. I'd love to kind of hear more about that and have you walk us through how that works and why it produces better results.
Okay, so it's again connected to the same idea of the outcome that the client wants eventually. Okay, so normally the QA process is that you create test cases, and then you run the test cases, you automate part of the test cases, but basically it's like, they think of every single possibility of, okay, so I add a huge number, or I do this, or I click this and then I stop it. It's like they think of all kinds of situations like that, instead of thinking of like, how are people actually going to use this? Okay. And then what happens is, and I'll give again for the, it's a huge module that we built, that basically does installment plans and so forth. Right now, you could create probably like, I'm not kidding, like 200,000 cases in that module alone, because it's connected to payments and all that. But if you actually start thinking, what is the common use that people are going to use this for, and start building a whole process from the beginning to end, that you test that common situation and another common situation and another common situation, you're going to find a lot more conceptual problems, and a lot more, not end cases problems, but actual problems that are going to hinder the ability to use this product, or to use
Yep.
this module. And I believe that QA is not only about, finding that end case that happens 1 in 100,000 times, right? Obviously, you have to take care of the end cases that are nasty, right? That can cause like, data corruption, or that can cause like, double payments, all that. So that is like a very technical part. But the core of the QA, and it's connected to what I said, where
Mhm.
everybody has the same idea of why is this being built? Why is it important? What are people going to use it for? And then build the cases around that. Now, a lot of times you would be testing the module not as a standalone unit. You're testing how it connects to other units, how people are using it in different scenarios, and then you're finding usability issues, you're finding technical issues, you're finding a lot of conceptual issues come up like that. A lot. So it's again the same concept of, you're not a lot of companies allow people to live in a silo, right? Like, I'm only doing this. I'm only doing this. Like, you walk into a company and you ask an engineer, "What are you building?" And he will tell you, like, technically exactly what he's building. It's like, "What is it gonna be used for?" You're like, "I don't know." It's like, now now beyond the fact that I think, as a human that is wasting his time on things that he doesn't understand why he's building, which is, I don't think people should live like that, right? It's causing a situation where you have to check them all the time instead of them checking themselves. They need to check themselves. What I'm building is actually going to be used. It's going to be useful. It will, be for the purpose that we're doing this, or not. Instead of a manager continually like checking and having meetings and all that crap.
Yeah, it's I mean, we call it product mindset, right? That's our just a little terminology for it, but it's exactly that. Like, why are you building what you're building? What is it? Who is it serving? How are they going to use it? So, yeah, I feel like you guys are ahead of a lot of
And I
organizations.
think that's a concept that we have throughout everything in Regpack. I'll give another
Yep.
example that we do something in Regpack. Every person in Regpack, when they join as part of the training, takes a client from 0 to 1.
Okay.
Okay. Now, think of an engineer working with a client to bring them from 0 to 1. Think of a support person. Think of a
Yeah.
marketing person that they're like, no, I just wanted you to do creatives and all that. Everybody has to take like a client from 0 to 1. And then they totally understand, okay, I understand the problems. I understand the psychology behind how people think and work. I understand the how important it is to bring them in correctly. I understand the importance of terminology. And suddenly, when they're working in their little silo, they understand the bigger picture because they went through the whole process.
Gotcha. And when you say taking the client from 0 to 1, is that like someone's a net new client to you guys, and like, here we go. Like, this is the first thing they're gonna do and get them all set up. Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, they get the full holistic view of what you guys are all about. Yeah.
In general, I think like of the like holistic view in a lot of things is a lot more important than being very very professional in what you do. Think of the difference between, I don't know, like I personally don't believe very much in Western medicine versus like the medicine from the East, where it's a more holistic view of you as a person, like your lifestyle, how you eat, and everything, um, as opposed to, oh, so something hurts here, so take this drug.
Yeah.
Right, you're not
But you
curing
gotta
s
take this one to counteract that one.
Yeah,
Don't forget that.
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, for
right,
sure.
in that case, you're not curing symptoms, you're not looking to manage symptoms, you're looking for what the underlying issue is,
Exactly.
Yep.
you
By the way,
know?
that's also connected to a lot of things that we do with our clients when we talk to them about specific needs or so forth. We tell them, and they come and they can you do this and that? And we're like, okay, don't tell that. That is the solution. What you just told me is the solution that you want. Tell me the problem. Tell me what you're trying to solve with this solution. Like, why do you want this?
Yep.
And then a lot of times it's like there's a much better solution for the problem that you're presenting.
Yep.
And that is something that works throughout Regpack in general, and I'm very proud that our engineers work this way as well. When people come, I need this feature. They say, okay, so tell me what is the problem that you're trying to solve with this feature?
Yep.
Because it could be that there's a better feature that would solve that problem.
Yep. It might even already exist. Like, just tell me what we're
Yeah,
working on here. Right. Yep.
9 out of 10 times it exists already.
Yeah. 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 It's more enablement at that point, right?
Yeah.
Let's get you what we're doing here.
I feel
Love
like
it.
this, like, in large part, like, it feels like it's a new way of thinking for most engineers. So just kinda curious, like, what challenges have you had in kind of instilling this new mindset in new hires?
A lot of time there's pushback in the beginning where they're like, no, I just want to code. And it takes time for them to understand that coding is the last step of the process, and it should be the shortest because you need to
Right.
read. It's like, think of it like an author, okay, that wants to write a book. They're not thinking of the story as they're writing the book, right? They sit on their couch and they walk and I don't know, they lie in their bed and they're thinking about the story, right? And then when they're writing it, they're just writing the story, but they've already had the story in their head. So the same needs to apply for an engineer. They can't, like, if you come to it out of the mindset of, I'll figure it out, you probably won't. Take a piece of paper. By the way, piece of paper and pen are like the best tools to plan, right? Take a piece of paper and pen and plan how you want it to work. And then now go into the nitty-gritty of the exact class and the exact function and everything that you need. But in the beginning, like, outline the solution that you're creating and what is the major in every technical solution that you create, there's some major idea. There's some major concept that stands there that is what makes this work, right? And you can't think of that when you're coding. You can think of that when you're sort of like remote from it and you're thinking about the end result this needs to work for. And that's, by the way, one of the reasons that I've never heard any of my engineers worried about AI, right? A lot of engineers are worried about AI because they're not really thinkers, right? They're not thinking of the overall solution. I'm creating a solution, and how does the solution serve the purpose that it's built for? So the way we look at AI, it's like, hey, this is great. It can help me do the grunt work that I don't want to do.
Yeah, it helps me be at the beach more, you know?
Yeah. It
Yeah.
helps me really
If
do
you
the grunt
use it
work
right.
because what I can do, understand how a module needs to be built and how this will create this outcome, AI can't do that. It
Yep.
just can't. Okay.
And
Yeah.
do you find specifically because you're distributed, right, all across the world, that I don't know, certain populations, subsets of, that are from more of a Western schooling and training versus, somewhere else in the world, are certain people are more open to the way that you're working? Is that something you kind of look for when you're hiring, or you don't really see it as,
Uh,
different?
I, I would say something that might sound weird. First of all, I think that a democratic culture is very important.
Yeah.
Working with countries that don't have a strong democratic culture is, I found for myself, very, very difficult because it's very hard for them to grasp this type of mindset where it's
Gotcha.
like you have autonomy, you have authority, you can do what you want, right?
Yep.
But at the same time, you're part of a total of a collective that has a shared goal. It's like very hard for like I'd worked with some Eastern European countries, and it was very hard to work with these developers. Like from my perspective, it was like I was like, okay, I'm done with this. It's too.
Yeah.
I can't teach them the culture of
Yep.
Right.
that type of like that's something that you should be taught as a child, right?
Yep.
That's one, and it's not politically correct what I'm going to say. A lot of engineers are babies, so they're babies. They're like,
Yeah. Oh, that's hilarious.
I want to work like this. Don't talk to me. These are my hours. That doesn't work. It's like
You
if
got to
if you
meet.
have an adult. Oddly, I found that people that it might sound totally unrelated. People that are in relationships, people that have children, people that experience life in a more holistic way or more round way are better engineers than people that are single mind focused.
Yeah.
That's what I found. I might be like that's only my experience, right?
No, I was gonna say you got to meet our partner Vinny. He does runs a lot of the trainings that we do, and I've heard him say that engineers are babies more than once. So
Yeah, the real
yeah,
babies.
yeah,
Sometimes,
and I think you can
sometimes
apply
like
that. It's not just engineers, right? You can apply that everywhere, right? People,
no,
it's
engineers
people really
specifically are more
sensitive.
babies because they have less interaction. Look, it's all if we want to talk about it's like soft skills and like
Yeah.
technical or hard skills.
Yep. Yep.
Technically, like an engineer knows that if I do A, B, C, it'll always happen D, right? It'll always happen like A, B, C, D. Whereas, let's say a marketing person will do A, B, C, and it happened X, and he doesn't even know why, right?
Yeah.
So, and it's very frustrating, by the way. I can tell you as an engineer that also does marketing, it's very frustrating. It's like you do A, B, C, D is supposed to happen, it just doesn't happen. Why?
Yeah.
You have no idea,
Yep.
right?
Knows, right.
Well, it's not that they're babies. They're just used to a certain structure. They're used to A, B, C, then D. Okay. And
Yep.
then when it doesn't happen, and life happens, it doesn't work this way. If they're not used to these situations, and I think that's why relationships or kids or like people that have built things on their own and so forth, they've experienced that frustration of like it doesn't go my way, or it's not exactly how I anticipated, then they're easier to work with because they're just like, okay, so shit happens and let's figure it out.
Right. That's kind of funny. Like coming from a marketing background, I feel like that a lot of times I find graphic designers are a lot like the engineers of the marketing world.
Yes, that's true. Flaky, and they're like, oh, it'll take me another 2 weeks. It's like, yeah.
Right. It's like, bro, you just have to change the color. I guess, maybe one of the final questions, because we are kind of running out a little bit of time. I don't want to take too much of your time, but like, your PhD focused on how computer languages affect human action. Um, how does that academic lens change the way you think about software and the teams that build it?
So first of all, like I said, the first thing is like, why is it important? It's like part of the academic thinking, right? Like you always try to understand, like why am I building this? Why is it important? Why is this? Because in academia, you have to come with a question that has never been researched, okay, and that is significant because otherwise nobody will care about your work, right? And it's very easy, very easy in academia to like build something, like research something for years and nobody cares. Okay, so you want to prevent that. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that everything in Regpack is databased. Everything, everything is database. It's like if you come up with an idea and you're like, I have a hunch, and like, good for you, go find the data that will help us understand that where it's worth putting in resources. Everything that we look at is like, where's the data? How can if we can't measure it, it doesn't exist from my perspective. So that is also connected to the scientific background. And again, this is something that is connected to developers. It's like, how long is it going to take you? It's like, I don't know. It's like, no, you do know how long it's going to take you. You need to make an assessment, and then there are tools that will help us assess if you're progressing in the right pace, right? So again, if you can measure it, then it exists. If you can't measure it, then it doesn't exist. That's my philosophy, and that is just how science works, right? And I think the last thing is that it is not enough to go through the process or do the motions. You need to be creative. Like in research, if you're not creative and you're just, doing the methodology, then fine. Like you'll create something that 100 people or 1,000 people before you created, nobody gives a shit, right?
Yeah.
So the same here. It's like you even though it might sound like, if you can't measure it, then it doesn't exist. It doesn't actually prevent creativity. It helps creativity because it moves the technical part to a technical language, and it allows you the freedom to move in the area makes sense, that is most important.
That's really dope. Awesome. Well, where can people find out more about the work that you're up to, Asaf, as we're kind of closing out here? And if you want to, give kind of a primer on Regpacks as well, we'd love to give you that
Sure.
space. Yeah.
So first of all, you can go to our website, regpacks.com. We have also a very active LinkedIn company profile. We have Instagram. But I would say that our website is the best place to go. There's also a lot of articles. You just search online my name. There's a lot
Yep.
of articles that I wrote in Forbes, in other newspapers that are connected to a lot of engineering, and also the general philosophy of how to manage companies in a different way, I would say. Regarding like if what Regpack does, because we didn't talk about it, basically what Regpack started as my research into how languages create human action, and then later the implementation of how can you create a system that has no constants in it. Everything's a variable. Okay. And then as part of that, I wanted to, because I'm a very, practical person, I said, okay, so how to use that for something practical, right? And I was like looking for a situation that you need something like that everything is a variable. Think of it, the best way to think about it is like that you have Lego blocks and you can build a spaceship or you can build a car, right? But there's nothing constant. And then I found that actually the service market is very fragmented because of that limitation, because there's a lot of constants in the software that people built. And then what happens is you have to have vertical specific software, which seemed to me as someone finishing my postdoc is like, that's ridiculous. Like, why would you need that? Okay. And then basically that's how Regpack was born, with the idea that service-based businesses have unique needs because of the limitation of time and space. Every service-based business has a limitation that you have to schedule something and you have to do it in a specific place. It can also be online, but it just needs to happen in a specific place. Think of a course. Think of a camp. Think of a law office, a doctor. There's always a time and space issue, and that's what causes them to need to always onboard people. Like think of the difference between a service-based business and a non. Um, what's your onboarding process of buying a shirt? You pay. That's it.
Yeah.
You're onboarded, right? Whereas if you want to go to the doctor, or if you want to learn Python, you have to go through a process to check what you know, what is your eligibility, where you're from, who can teach you, et cetera, et cetera. So there's an onboarding process, right? So once I understood all that, I was like, okay, this technology that I built is exactly primed for this, because it allows you to create any type of onboarding process that you want and any kind of data gathering, and then actually processing it to specific needs of the vertical. But you don't need to be vertical specific, because nothing is constant. And that's how Regpack was born. And a lot of people refer to Regpack, I think, in a nice way, that it's like Shopify for services.
Gotcha.
I think that's a good way to think about it.
Yeah. Love it. Amazing. Well, really appreciate you joining us today, Asaf. It's been fun talking to you. And I think the listeners are going to get a lot of fantastic information.
It was fun.
So
I enjoyed myself.
really you joining.